All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into something that you might find really surprising.
Okay.
And it's about the Baha'i Faith's approach to governance.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have some fascinating source material.
Okay.
It's a document called The Baha'i Faith, a non-theocratic and apolitical vision of governance.
Oh, wow.
And that title pretty much sums it up.
It
We're
does.
going to be exploring
Okay.
how this faith actually avoids setting up a theocracy
Right.
or getting entangled in partisan politics.
Yeah, when you think about it,
Yeah.
that's a pretty bold stance for a religion to take.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you consider how many religions throughout history
Right.
have sought to influence or even control political systems.
Yeah, it almost feels counterintuitive.
It does.
It's like they're saying,
Yeah.
we have something important to contribute,
Right.
but we're going to do it outside the traditional corridors of power. So the question is why?
Yeah, why would a faith choose this path?
Exactly what drives this
Yeah.
unique approach.
Well, the document lays out a pretty compelling case.
Okay.
And it starts by digging into the theological foundations
Huh?
for this separation of religion and state.
And there's a quote from Bahá'u'lláh himself
Oh, right.
that gets right to the heart of it.
Okay.
He talks about keeping religious and civil administration distinct.
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
In the tablets of Bahá'u'lláh,
Yeah.
he states that the instruments which are employed in the administration of religious affairs
Okay.
must be disassociated from the instruments which appertain to the enforcement of civil law.
Wow.
Pretty clear.
So this isn't just a matter of preference.
Right.
This is a fundamental principle. kind of
Exactly.
thing.
And to understand this more,
Yeah.
it helps to consider the historical context.
Okay.
So imagine the world in the mid-1800s
Okay.
when Baha'u'lláh revealed these teachings.
Yeah.
Empires and kingdoms often intertwined religious and political authority and, sometimes with disastrous consequences. So the Baha'i Faith's stance is informed by an awareness of the potential pitfalls of theocracy.
Absolutely. They've seen
Yeah.
how merging spiritual authority with political power can lead to corruption, oppression, and the suppression of individual freedoms.
Yeah. Instead of following that well-worn path,
Yeah.
they've chosen a completely different route.
Yeah. They created a system of governance
Okay.
that actively avoids those dangers.
Interesting.
So, for instance,
Yeah.
there's no clergy in the Baha'i Faith instead of a hierarchical structure.
Okay.
They have democratically elected councils
Okay.
at local, national, and international levels.
So decision-making is distributed
Yeah,
rather than concentrated.
precisely.
Yeah.
It's a model of collective leadership that prioritizes consultation and consensus building.
Interesting.
So you have local spiritual assemblies,
Okay.
national spiritual assemblies,
Okay.
and at the global level,
Yeah.
the Universal House of Justice.
Okay, so that's a pretty radical departure
It is.
from the top-down models we often see
Yeah,
in religious institutions.
right.
It sounds almost like a blend of
Yeah.
spiritual principles and democratic values.
You could say that, and it's a fascinating example
Sure.
of how a faith community can organize itself
Yeah.
in a way that both upholds its spiritual beliefs and embraces
Right, yeah.
principles of participatory governance.
I'm starting to see how this ties into
Yeah.
their commitment to unity.
Okay.
But the document doesn't just focus on the theological reasons
Right.
for rejecting theocracy.
Exactly.
There's a whole section on the sociological implications as well.
There is, because for the Baha'i Faith,
Okay.
it's not enough to simply avoid replicating the mistakes of the past.
Right.
They're seeking to build a social order
Yeah.
that reflects their core values
Okay.
of justice,
Yeah.
unity,
Yep.
and the well-being of all humanity.
Okay. So that means carefully considering the real-world impacts of different governing systems.
Exactly. They recognize that how a society governs itself has profound implications for the lives of its people.
Right.
And they're committed to creating a system that fosters harmony and progress.
One of the biggest concerns they raise is the potential for corruption
Yes.
when religious and political authority become intertwined.
And history is full of examples where that fusion of power
Yeah.
has led to some pretty disastrous outcomes.
Sure.
When leaders can leverage spiritual influence for personal gain,
Right.
it erodes trust
Yeah.
and undermines the very foundations of a just society.
The Baha'i administrative order seems deliberately designed to prevent that type of abuse.
Yes.
It's quite striking that elected officials
Right.
don't even receive a salary.
Yeah, that's a key point.
Yeah.
It underscores the emphasis on selfless service.
Right.
And ensures that those in leadership positions are motivated by a desire to contribute to the well-being of the community, not by personal ambition or financial gain.
It seems like every aspect of their system is carefully considered to safeguard against the pitfalls they've observed in other forms of governance.
Right.
Another point that really stood out to me is how theocracy can actually fracture a society.
It can.
Even leading to conflict.
That's a real danger when political decisions are driven by narrow sectarian interests.
Yeah.
It creates divisions and undermines the social fabric.
As you mentioned, unity is a paramount principle.
It is.
In the Baha'i Faith.
Yes.
So this kind of division would be completely antithetical to their core beliefs.
Absolutely. There's a powerful passage in the World Order of Bahá'u'lláh where Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Bahá'í Faith, strongly advises Baha'is to stay clear of political pursuits, urging them to refrain from associating themselves with the policies of their governments and the schemes of parties and factions.
So it's a clear call to rise above
the
fray of partisan politics.
Yes.
So it's not just about passively avoiding the political arena.
No, it's a deliberate, proactive choice to maintain their independence and focus on building unity.
They see their role as transcending the limitations and divisions of partisan politics. And instead, working to create a more just and unified world.
Exactly.
It's fascinating to see how this commitment to unity shapes their approach to governance.
Yeah.
But the document goes even further.
It does.
Arguing that the Baha'i Faith cannot be political.
Interesting.
I'm really curious to unpack what that means and what drives that perspective.
This is where we get into some of the core theological tenets of the Baha'i Faith. And this is where things get really interesting. One of the key concepts is the idea of progressive revelation.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Okay.
What does progressive revelation mean in this context?
Yeah.
And how does it relate to their stance on political engagement?
Essentially, Baha'is believe that God's guidance unfolds gradually throughout human history, with each new messenger bringing teachings suited to the needs of the time. They see Baha'u'llah's revelation as the most recent chapter in this ongoing process, a chapter that emphasizes the oneness of humanity and the need for a global civilization founded on unity and justice.
So they see humanity as evolving towards a higher level of understanding and cooperation.
Yeah. And they believe that Baha'u'llah's teachings provide the spiritual and social principles needed to navigate this critical stage in our collective development.
But political ideologies tend to be much more transient.
They do?
Often tied to the specific circumstances of a particular time and place.
That's right. They can be divisive and often focus on short-term solutions rather than addressing the underlying spiritual and moral dimensions of the challenges we face.
So the Baha'i teachings are focused on enduring spiritual principles that transcend the limitations of political system.
Precisely. And they believe that by focusing on these eternal truths, they can contribute to building a more just and unified world that will stand the test of time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, we're playing a different game here.
Right.
We're not trying to win a particular election or promote a specific political agenda.
Exactly.
We're working to lay the spiritual foundations for a lasting civilization.
That's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
Their vision extends far beyond the realm of partisan politics. They're aiming for a fundamental transformation of human consciousness. Yeah.
And the establishment of a new social order based on unity, justice, and love.
This idea of a new social order sounds intriguing.
It is.
But it's clearly distinct from the political systems we're familiar with.
Absolutely. It's not about seizing political power or imposing their beliefs on others. It's about creating a new framework for human interaction, grounded in spiritual principles and a profound respect for the dignity and worth of every individual.
So it's about building a more just and equitable society from the ground up through education, service, and the cultivation of spiritual virtues.
That's the essence of their approach. They believe that lasting change comes not from the top down,
Right.
but from the transformation of individual hearts and minds.
Okay.
And the creation of communities that reflect
Yeah.
these higher principles.
It's fascinating to see how their theological beliefs inform their social vision.
And their unique approach to governance.
Yeah.
But there's another reason why they avoid
There is
direct political involvement, isn't there?
Yes.
Something about protecting their integrity and neutrality.
They recognize that becoming entangled in partisan politics could compromise their ability to serve as a unifying force in society.
Because once you take sides,
Right.
you inevitably alienate those who hold opposing views.
And for the Baha'i Faith, maintaining that neutrality is essential to their mission of promoting unity and reconciliation among all people.
It's a conscious choice to remain above the fray and to focus on the things that unite us rather than those that divide us.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's a powerful testament to their belief in the transformative power of unity and their commitment to building a world where everyone feels a sense of belonging and purpose.
It's a perspective that certainly challenges conventional thinking about the role of religion in society. It raises a lot of questions about how we can address the complex issues we face in the world today without resorting to the divisive tactics that so often characterize partisan politics.
It's a valuable reminder that there are other ways to engage with the world, ways that prioritize collaboration, understanding, and the pursuit of common ground.
I'm eager to explore how these principles translate into action.
Yeah.
The document delves into the practical implications of this non-theocratic approach to governance.
Okay.
And I'm curious to see how it plays out in the lives of individuals and communities.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
And it's where we can start to see the real-world impact of these unique and often counterintuitive principles.
Right. Let's get into it.
Okay. So let's dive into those practical implications. If the Baha'i Faith is intentionally steering clear of traditional political power structures, how do they actually govern themselves?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk about lofty principles.
It is.
But I'm curious to see how they actually put those principles into action.
Yeah.
The document mentions that Baha'i elections are quite unique.
They really are.
Yeah.
There's no campaigning, no platforms, no political maneuvering.
Right.
Like, we're used to imagine an election without all the noise and posturing.
That's almost hard to fathom in today's world.
It is.
But then how do they choose their leaders?
Right.
What are they looking for?
Well, the focus is on spiritual qualities.
Okay.
Not popularity or political savvy.
Okay.
It's about recognizing individuals who embody the faith's values.
Okay.
Humility, trustworthiness, wisdom, a spirit of service.
So it's less about persuasion and more about discerning who is best suited to serve the community.
You got it.
Okay.
It's a very different approach to leadership.
Yeah.
One that prioritizes the collective good over individual ambition.
And this ties back to what we were discussing earlier about safeguarding against corruption.
Right.
If you're not driven by a desire for power or personal gain, you're less likely to abuse your position.
And this emphasis on service extends to every level of the Baha'i administrative order.
Right.
The document also highlights the importance of consultation as a governing principle.
Yeah, I was intrigued by that too.
Yeah.
It seems like such a departure.
It really is.
From the way decisions are often made.
Right.
Both in the political sphere and even in our personal lives.
Yeah.
You know, just our day-to-day lives.
It really is.
In the Baha'i system, decisions arise from a process of collective deliberation.
Yes.
Where everyone's input is valued.
It's about striving for unity in thought and action.
Okay.
Even when there are differences of opinion.
So it's not about winning an argument or imposing your viewpoint on others.
No, it's about listening deeply.
Right.
Seeking understanding and finding solutions that benefit everyone involved.
It sounds like it requires a high level of maturity.
It does.
And detachment from one's own ego.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
But the Baha'is believe it's the most effective way to make decisions that reflect the will of God and serve the best interests of humanity.
I can see how that approach would lead to more thoughtful
and
balanced outcomes.
Right.
But it also sounds like it would take time and patience.
It does.
Are Baha'i communities able to make decisions efficiently?
That's a common question.
Yeah.
It's true that consultation takes more time up front.
Okay.
But the Baha'is argue that the benefits far outweigh the costs.
Right.
When decisions are made through a truly consultative process,
Yeah.
they're more likely to be well-informed, widely supported, and ultimately more sustainable in the long run.
It's about building consensus.
Yeah.
And fostering a sense of shared ownership.
It is.
Over the decisions that shape their community.
Exactly.
It's not just about efficiency.
Right.
It's also about unity and effectiveness.
Precisely. And this commitment to consultation isn't limited to the elected councils.
Okay.
It's woven into the fabric of Baha'i community life.
Okay.
They even hold regular gatherings called 19-day feasts.
Oh, wow.
Where they consult on community affairs, share news, and foster a spirit of fellowship.
It sounds like they've created a culture of collaboration.
They have.
Collective decision-making.
It's one of the things that sets the Baha'i approach to governance apart.
Right.
It's not just a set of abstract principles. It's a lived reality that shapes the way they interact with each other and the world around them.
You know, it strikes me that this focus on consultation might have some valuable lessons for the rest of us, even if we don't share their religious beliefs.
Right.
In a world that often feels so divided and polarized.
It does.
It's refreshing to see a model of governance.
It is.
That emphasizes unity, collaboration, and the search for common ground.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that there are other ways to approach decision-making, ways that can lead to more harmonious and sustainable outcomes.
Another interesting point the document makes is that instead of seeking political power, Baha'is channel their energy into education and moral development.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
They believe that lasting change begins with the transformation of the individual and the cultivation of virtues like honesty, trustworthiness, compassion, and service to others.
And that education and moral development are the foundations for building a more just and peaceful society.
Exactly. They see it as their primary responsibility to contribute to the spiritual and moral progress of humanity, both within their community and in the wider world.
So instead of campaigning for political office or lobbying for specific policies, they're investing their time and energy in initiatives that uplift individuals and communities.
Yes, that's a very different kind of social activism.
It is.
They believe that real progress comes not from imposing solutions from the top down, but from empowering individuals to become agents of change in their own lives and communities.
It's about creating a ripple effect of positive transformation.
That's a wonderful analogy. They're focused on planting seeds of virtue and knowledge that will eventually blossom into a more just and unified world.
Their commitment to education is particularly striking.
It is.
I understand that they place a high value on acquiring knowledge and developing one's intellectual capacities.
They believe that education is essential for both material and spiritual progress. They view it as a lifelong pursuit, a process of continually expanding one's understanding of the world and one's place in it.
And they don't just focus on academic knowledge.
No, their concept of education is much broader than that. It encompasses the development of the whole person, including their moral and spiritual capacities.
So it's about nurturing not just the mind, but also the heart and the soul.
Exactly. And they believe that this kind of holistic education is essential for creating individuals who are capable of contributing to the betterment of society.
So instead of trying to change the world through political maneuvering, they're focusing on equipping individuals with the knowledge, skills, and moral compass to create change from within.
That's a great way to summarize it. They see education as a powerful tool for social transformation. One that has the potential to create a ripple effect of positive change that can ultimately reshape the world.
It's a long-term vision. It's one that requires patience and perseverance. But it's also deeply inspiring.
It is.
It suggests that we all have the power to make a difference.
We do.
Not by vying for political power, but by cultivating our own inner potential.
Yes.
And contributing to the well-being of our community.
I think that's a beautiful message.
Yeah.
And one that resonates deeply with the human spirit.
It does.
It reminds us that real change begins with each of us.
Right.
And that we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in building a better future.
Yeah. It really is amazing to think about those ripple effects that can come from focusing on individual transformation and community building.
Exactly.
It's like they're saying, let's get our own house in order first, and then see how we can contribute to the well-being of the whole.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about starting with the foundation, nurturing those core values of unity, justice, and love, and then allowing those principles to radiate outwards.
So if we were to step back and try to synthesize all of this, what would you say are the key takeaways?
Yeah.
What makes the Baha'i approach to governance so unique and potentially transformative?
I think the most striking aspect is their deliberate choice to separate religion from political power.
Yeah.
It's a bold stance that challenges conventional thinking about the role of faith in society.
It's almost as if you're saying, we have a different kind of power
to
offer the world, one that's not about control or domination, but about unity service and the spiritual empowerment of humanity.
Exactly. It's not about passivity or withdrawal from the world. It's a conscious decision to engage with society in a way that transcends the limitations and divisions of partisan politics.
It's about building a better world from the inside out.
It is.
Starting with the transformation of the individual and the creation of communities that reflect those higher principles.
And they've created a system of governance that embodies those principles.
They have.
Think about their unique approach to elections. Where the focus is on spiritual qualities rather than political ambition.
Yeah, it's such a refreshing contrast.
It is.
To the often cutthroat nature of political campaigns.
Yeah, where personal attacks and empty promises are all too common.
Exactly.
And their emphasis on consultation as a governing principle is equally revolutionary.
It is.
It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every individual and creating a space where everyone's voice can be heard.
It's a model of decision-making that prioritizes collaboration, understanding, and the search for common ground.
And ultimately, it's about channeling our collective energy towards the betterment of humanity.
Instead of chasing political power, they're investing their time and resources in education, moral development, service to others.
It's a long-term vision.
It is.
One that requires patience and perseverance. But it also offers a glimmer of hope in a world that often feels so divided.
It does.
And disillusioned with traditional power structures.
This has been a truly eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
It's challenged my assumptions about the relationship between religion and governance. And it's given me a new perspective on the possibilities for social transformation.
I've enjoyed exploring these ideas with you.
Me too.
It's been a fascinating journey.
And for you listening, we hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity.
I hope so.
And inspired you to think differently about how we can create a better world.
Yeah.
Perhaps the Baha'i approach, even if you don't share their beliefs, offers some valuable insights into how we can move forward together with unity and purpose to build a future where everyone can thrive.
I agree.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, keep diving deep.